there. Indeed, there's much to talk about. Let's get to our panel. Joining us here in Washington is Atiba Madyun. He's the founder and president of Party Politics US. Leonard Steinhorn is a political analyst and professor of communication at American University. With us from Las Vegas is political commentator Barth, and Simon Marks is the president and chief correspondent for Feature Story News. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Megan, let me start with you and with this late-breaking news in the New York Times that the president told James Comey, the former FBI director, to stop an investigation into Michael Flynn. That was the president's first choice for national security advisor. Potentially, this could pose some legal problems for the president, couldn't it?
Well, if you believe unsubstantiated sources, which the New York Times is notorious for providing, all anonymous, all unsubstantiated, and in other late-breaking news today, Michael Flynn was cleared by the FBI of any collusion with Russia. And I must further add that the investigation into Russia is a complete sabotage witch hunt move by the DNC. Because I would like to know what evidence there is of collusion. According to Adam Schiff, who is on the Senate Intelligence Committee, and Dianne Feinstein, and James Clapper, there is no evidence of collusion between the Russia government or the Trump campaign. So normally, an investigation will commence once there's evidence presented. But the Democrats don't want to wait for the evidence. I want to see the James Comey memo on Seth Rich.
Simon, what do you make of this? I mean, if indeed James Comey is telling us what happened during that meeting in February, then this would be tantamount to what? Obstruction of justice?
Anna, this is a bombshell. This is an absolute depth charge beneath the White House that puts Donald Trump in grave political peril. These are not unsubstantiated, uncorroborated claims. This is a memo that James Comey, the director of the FBI, wrote that has been furnished now to multiple news organizations, not just the New York Times, by associates of James Comey. Part of a practice that we understand that James Comey kept every single time he had a conversation with the President of the United States as a dutiful public servant. He went away and noted down what the President of the United States had said to him. And according to this memo, the President of the United States was urging him to shut down an investigation that the FBI had underway into possible ties between Michael Flynn and the Russians. Ties that are demonstrable in that we know that Michael Flynn went to Moscow, sat next to Vladimir Putin at that gala event, was paid for being there, and ties with the Russians about which we know Michael Flynn lied to the Vice President of the United States. So this is an unbelievably grave development for the White House. And that White House statement that Jessica Stone read at the beginning of the program, this is a White House that has seen its credibility shattered. The President of the United States himself has argued that his press people don't always speak with perfect accuracy because they can't necessarily reflect what he said at any given time to people in his immediate orbit. This is a new story, and it's a devastating story potentially for Donald Trump.
Okay, Atiba, in your view, is the president in trouble here?
Alternative facts. I mean, yes, the president, he keeps moving, and he keeps us moving. I'm having a lot of fun with this. It's like every day you're just trying to figure out where's it going to come from, what's it going to be. And maybe this is part of his strategy of making America great again, because what we keep finding is that we keep seeing and hearing things that are facts. We keep being told, for instance, today with Comey in the memo, what we really want to know is we want to get to the hearings. We want to get Comey in front of a Senate Intelligence Committee. We want to hear what was it, what is it. You know, to be honest with you, I want to read the book, but we've got to go through these stages first.
Lenny, here's something. If indeed this meeting took place and President Trump did tell James Comey, look, I want you to stop the investigation into Michael Flynn, why did James Comey continue in office? Why did he not resign, come out of that meeting and say, I can't do my job effectively with this president, I need to go?
Well, we don't know everything that memo says, and obviously James Comey had to believe that whatever the president was going to say to him, that he would have the full independence and authority to conduct this investigation and to keep going with it and to find out where the evidence is and to uncover all of these, stones that may need to be overturned. But look, this is no longer drip, drip, drip. This is like drinking from a fire hydrant right now. This is consequential information, and it brings a larger issue related to the Trump presidency. He's almost treating this presidency as if it's his business and that he owns it. But the problem is that we own this business. This is our democracy. He is a temporary inhabitant of the White House like every other president. And in our democracy, we don't obstruct justice. We don't put our thumb on the scale of justice to protect ourselves and the people we like. We don't release classified information. That's our business. And if Hillary Clinton were in the White House and done the exact same things, you can rest assured that the Republican Party would be out of control, saying, lock her up, lock her up.
Okay, let me go to Meg. I'll get you in a moment. Let me go to Megan. Megan, let's talk about this leak of what the Washington Post called highly classified information, intelligence. The story is that President Trump told the Russian foreign minister about a threat that was coming from ISIS. Has he seriously compromised U.S. intelligence gathering capabilities by doing that? Can the people, in this case Israel, who supply that information, trust the United States now?
Well, it's actually the leakers that committed felonies that have violated the national security of this country, not President Trump. President Trump has the authority to declassify any information that he wishes to declassify. According to Israel's statement, they trust Donald Trump, and they're going to continue to work with him on classified information. So it doesn't seem like the Israelis have the problem. Who really has the problem here is the DNC and the propaganda arm, which is the press, who operates on Democrat talking points and unnamed sources and anonymous sources, and using these leaks, which are felonies, against this administration, specifically to undermine this administration and President Donald Trump. You know, someone mentioned a fire hose. This is a fire hose of felonies. Where is the intellectual and objective curiosity when it comes to the leakers who have violated the law, which is punishable by prison time?
Okay, Simon, let me ask you this. Let's get to what exactly was leaked, the piece of intelligence that was leaked. We're told that what Trump told the Russian foreign minister was that we now have information that ISIL could be or could have developed a type of bomb which could be smuggled into a laptop computer which could be used on a plane to bring a plane down. We know about this.
We do know about this, but we don't know the specifics of the intelligence that President Trump shared with the Russians in what was already, by the way, a deeply controversial meeting that was taking place in the Oval Office between Donald Trump and the Russian foreign minister and the Russian ambassador to the United States, a man who is at the center of the FBI's probe into those ties that Michael Flynn may indeed have had with the Russians. We don't know the precise nature of the intelligence, but we do know that it was so highly classified that the United States government had decided that they couldn't even share it with the Five Eyes group, the Five Eyes group of very close intelligence sharing allies. And also we know that Donald Trump is correct in one sense when he says he has the absolute right to declassify any piece of information. But he didn't declassify it as part of a deliberative process. On the fly, in a casual conversation in the Oval Office, he disclosed things that he clearly, according to some other officials within the Trump administration, should not have disclosed. It's not the DNC that began all of this. It's Donald Trump speaking loosely to the Russian foreign minister, which then led to a senior official within the White House, Donald Trump's own Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security, saying, hang on a second, this is a problem because we weren't authorized to share that intelligence. That's the problem that he's created here. And it goes to a broader question of whether he totally understands the nature of how you deal with classified information and whether he can be trusted with it.
Right, I'll get to you in a moment, Lenny. Atiba, let me ask you this. The president leaked classified information. Is there any evidence? Was it done with some kind of malicious intent?
I don't think he did it with malicious intent. I think he did it because he wanted to be buddy-buddy. I think he wanted to, like...
Well, wait a minute.
But so I don't understand.
Yeah, just hold on a minute. Megan, I'll get you. Hold a minute there. He was talking about threats, specifically bringing an airliner down. In fact, he's going to Brussels at the end of this week. He's going to be talking to ministers in Brussels, other leaders in Brussels. One of the big topics they're going to be talking about are these threats. And he mentioned it to the Russians. Remember, Russia was a victim of a plane being brought down in 2015. So what's wrong with that?
You know, it's the optics. You know, right now you already have an investigation that's going on. You already have questions of whether or not there was collusion and the election, and it involved Russia. So the optics for the president right now are what are really hurting him. In terms of what he's doing, he's taking his trip. He's also going to visit Saudi Arabia. He's going to visit Italy. He's going to visit Israel. You know, this is all in terms of his strategy, in terms of how we are going to combat and go against ISIL. But what he did in terms of in the White House and what the Assistant Secretary did in terms of sharing that information was because when we think about our national security, we think about the person that we entrust with the presidency, the keys to the White House. What we're finding and what we're learning right now is the president really is above the law, but the president does have the right to share that information with who he sees fit. He felt that it was fitting to share this information on Friday.
Right.
But, you know, in terms of the optics, it's the optics, I think, that keep hurting it. And I think there's also us getting to find out the president is learning how to be president on the run.